Okay guys, we're going to look at some temporary repairs on our roof. So we can have lots of different things go wrong. We have cyclone damage. The first one we're going to look at is a whirlybird. We do have whirlybirds in far north Queensland, plenty of them. And what we normally find is with the whirlybirds after a cyclone, these spin so fast that the actual whole whirlybird flies off and we only end up with the base still there. What could also happen is the whirlybird top can get damaged. So this is the top here. And the way it works is the whirlybird spins around like that. So it's going really, really fast as the wind hits it. And as the rain comes down, hits it, there's these little lips here, and that just throws the water away and stops the water from getting inside here. If the water can get into here, it can actually then go into the ceiling. So you just straight into there, and we can have some damage coming that way. So what happens if our whirlybird has been spinning really well, and then something hits it, or something goes wrong with it and it stops? That means our whirlybird can now leak. So if we're on the ground and we see our whirlybird stopped, what we can do is think, how are we going to actually stop any more water getting into that whirlybird? Simply enough, we can look at it and go, okay, we can leave this whole cowl here, so this top part's the cowl, and we want to cover it so that no more water can get into there. A couple of ways we can do it. We could probably use a piece of plastic, like a black plastic here, which we take up onto the roof, we put over there like that. Quite awkward to work with, and then what we've got to try to do is hold it in place. So we would then use our cloth tape or our gaffer tape here, try to hold it down. And as you can see, I would have a lot of trouble trying to hold that, get it in place, but eventually I would get it okay. The good thing about the plastic is it's nice and thick. The bad thing about it, it does break down in the sunshine. So UV is not UV rated or resistant, and after about a month, you'd find that it would all start to fall apart and we'd have to fix it again. But we've got to remember, this is temporary repairs. We're not doing a full-time job with this where it's going to last 12 months. Temporary repair, until the owner can get it fixed. And hopefully in a month or so, or even less, a couple of days, they can get somebody in to fix it up. Another simple way to do it is, if we don't have any, we can go see the owner and say, have you got a garbage bag? Okay, garbage bags work really good for this one, because basically what we can do is, we can just get it straight over our whirlybird like this, bring it over, pull it down, nice and tight, not too tight so you rip it. Now, don't just put one on it though. You put one on there and the sun gets on too much, it'll wreck it pretty quick. Get a second. Okay, you put a second one on it, right over the top. Okay, and if you think it's going to take a little bit longer for the repair to happen, something else, it might be Watson or something like that, get a third and a fourth. Keep on putting them over. Okay, got to get the air out of that. I'm going to pull it right down. Now that we've got it over like that, we want to make sure it's going to be tidied up a little bit. So the bottom, to stop it coming off, we're going to get our cloth tape or a gaffer tape. Simply enough, what we're going to do is go straight around here, get it around the base, pull it around, okay, and with the cloth tape, I'll bring this around so you can see it. Really good, I love the cloth tape because all you can do is grab it either side. If you can come in nice and close, you just rip it, okay, and it does that. Now the other thing you want to do, get rid of these flappy bits too, because as they're moving in the wind, it'll actually then destroy the plastic because it's going to wear out. So what we can also do here then is get another one, start around our back, get that little flap down out of the road, tighten it around, all the way around, okay, and once again when we get around to here, we'll just grab hold of it and rip it. Fix up all the ends, have a look at it and make sure that we've got it nice and tight all the way around. You could even go like this, over the top, down like that, just to support it a little bit more. That was the simplest way of doing it. As I said, more garbage bags the better, because as you keep putting them over, the first one might get destroyed in the UV or with the sun, once that goes, and then the next one and the next one. Really, really important to tell the owners though, if they only use garbage bags to fix their whirlybird up, they need to get a plumber as soon as they can to do the other repair. Otherwise they'll be ringing you up and saying, my whirlybird is now leaking. Simple one for that first one. Alrighty, so what we're going to look at now, we looked at the garbage bag over the top of our whirlybird. I've actually left the whirlybird on here just in case you want to look at taking this actual cowl off at any stage. To take the whirlybird cowl off, it's really simple. You can just get the 3 screws on here. So you can just see a screw here. Take the screw off. Make sure you keep the screws just in case you want to use them again later on. You never know where you might want to use them. Taking the second screw off there. And the last one's on the back here, which you can't see, but it's exactly the same thing, the 3 screws. Once you take the 3 screws off, it's simple enough as wiggle the whirlybird, take the whirlybird off. Now don't just sit it onto the roof like this. If you sit it onto the roof like that, or just like that, a bit of wind comes along, all of a sudden you've got the whirlybird cowl flying onto the roof. So you need to either fix it down, take it off the roof and put it down, or even tie it down somewhere so it can't go anywhere. So we've taken our whirlybird off the roof. Okay, now what you can see here, there's a big hole here. So if the rain comes down, it's going to come straight in here and onto your ceiling of your house, and it's going to leak quite severely. So we need now to block up this part. We used the garbage bag before. Can't use the garbage bag here too well because we put our garbage bag on here, the rain hits it, you know, that pool of water sitting there, and eventually it'll just soak in or goes right through there, break the seal, and you have a big blob of water coming through. Better to use something a little bit harder, like our harder plastic. So this is our black plastic that we'll have in our vehicles or anything like that. Once again, don't just do it singly. We want to make sure we cover it over. So if we do it 4 times, we want to put it over there like that, okay? And we're going to use it 4 times. So what we're going to do there then is, once again, we've got to try to seal this on. Now, this takes a little bit of juggling, but what I'm going to do this time is start with the one going over the top. Okay, so what I will do is I want to make sure that I can stick it to the edge of the whirlybird. Okay, so I've stuck it to the edge of the whirlybird there, making sure it's stick, and then I'm going to pull it over, rip it on this side, and stick it onto the whirlybird on that side. Okay, so we've got to start there. Now we can hold it in place. We're not juggling it as much. Now I'm going to go this way. Stick it onto our whirlybird. That way, sticking it onto our whirlybird. I know it's not pretty. Might meant to be pretty, it's temporary repair. Okay, so we've got it like that now. Now what we're going to do is go right around the outside, like we did with our other whirlybird, and hold it in place. So what I'll do is I'm going to start over this side over here. I'm going to start where my tape is, hold it down, and go around. It's like wrapping the Christmas present. Okay, now like that. Probably the boys were not very good at Christmas presents, but we're going to keep going right around. Okay. Now, this cloth tape, we don't want to use a whole roll on it, but it doesn't really matter how much we use, because the more secure we make it now, the better waterproof it's going to be later. It's not going to fly off. Okay. I'm going to make sure it's fairly tight on here. Now, we don't want to get a little indentation here. If we get a little indentation, the water's going to sit on there, and eventually it's just going to come through. It says you're going to, the UV will affect it. We're going to have a big blob of water coming through. Now, as you can see, it's not the prettiest of wrapping, but once again, a nice, tight, secure top there. Making sure we stick all the bits down. Now, if the wind comes through and hits this, it's not going to affect it at all. In fact, it's going to be quite secure and seal up quite well for a period of time. You would talk to the owner again and say to the owner, hey look, we've just put black plastic on top of your whirlybird. You really need to get a plumber and come back and replace the whirlybird. Or talk to your insurance company and make sure they're aware that this is only a temporary repair and it might only last a week, 2 weeks, whatever it might be. So they've got to get somebody in to have a look at it. Okay, so what we've done is we've covered our whirlybird up quite well here. There's no more water getting into here. We can have a good look at it. And what we've done is we've found out that there's still more water leaking into our roof. So what we're going to probably do is do a little bit of detective work, get back up onto our roof and have a look around to see what might be leaking. Now, I know that you can see here, but that wouldn't normally look like that. You'd have a capping over the top there. But this instance, we're not looking at that there. We get up onto our roof and we start looking around, and you can see people have made a few repairs, bits of old silicon. We go around, but we have a look at this screw here, and you see that the top head of the screw is sitting up just a little bit. Now, we don't know whether it's going to be leaking there, but a good possibility that it can. So what we'd have to do is go, okay, we need to fix that one up or cover it or seal it. We look around so we don't just think that's the only one, and we see a screw's missing here. Now, if you think the water's all running down here, so there's water running down, running around, the amount of water that runs in that little hole there could actually fill a bucket in probably about an hour. So that's a lot of water. It could be just pouring straight in that one spot there. Also, it could run in here, hit the roof batten, and run across our roof and come out somewhere else. So that one we're going to fix up. Okay, so we've got these two, the little head of the screw here, and that one as well. We keep looking around, there's not much else that we can see that's leaking. Everything looks okay at this stage, so what we would do is we try to seal those two. Now, if our roof's dry, silicon's great. if we're pouring down rain and we're having a bit of trouble, we have to make sure it's dry before we put our silicone on. So when we get it from the hardware store, this is what our silicone tube looks like. You've got a thread there and it's actually capped off so the silicone doesn't go hard. They also give you the nib or the little tip here. That one screws on top. But what we're going to do first is remove that. Now, a couple of ways you can do it. You can actually use your tin snips. If they open up, a little bit of work to get them off like that. But you've got to open the tin snips up completely. Put them over the top there and flip the top off like that. Okay. You can use your Stanley knife, being careful if you do use a Stanley knife, you don't poke or cut yourself with that one. Once you've got that top cut there, we then get our nib or our tip and we screw it on nice and tight. Screw it all the way on. Okay, so that's what it looks like at the moment. Now also, what we want to do then, we've got to make sure we put it into our silicone gun. Click it in that way, like that. Try to always put it so the label's facing up so people know what it is. And you can push it like that. Now we can't click it too much yet because if we go too far, all the silicone's going to pop out there. What we also want to do though, is we want to cut our little tip here on a bit of an angle, okay? That actually, the more we cut it back, is the more silicone that's going to come pouring out, okay? Now the reason why we do cut that, okay, so when we actually start clicking it on, we can actually put it like that and lay our silicone down and it won't roll back up on us. I bet you everybody's done that before. So as we go along, you start putting your silicone on and it folds up. So the idea is we're going to fix our little screw here. So we keep watching. You can actually watch the silicone coming out through the end. We don't want to get silicone everywhere. We don't need too much. Now, really important, we're going to take our gloves off for this bit because if we've got our gloves on, what's going to happen if we try to use it on the silicone? Okay, and what we're going to do is we want to make sure that we get the silicone patted all the way up underneath our screw. Now that's pretty easy. We're then going to get our rag, wipe our fingers. Now if we can, we've got our battery drill, we're going to carefully screw our screw down a little bit. We get our fingers, rub it again, and we pretty much have sealed that up quite well. Now the other one we got, which we looked at before, was over the back here. There's actually a hole into our roof, okay, so where the screws pop out there, and we don't have a spare screw. What we're going to do with this one is quite simply get our silicone gun again. We have got it on that little cut angle, so we're going to put the angle like that. So you can see there's the angle. We're going to put it over the hole. We're going to keep squeezing, 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 squeezing. We're actually going to push the silicone into the hole there. Same thing again with our little finger. Rubbing it over the top, moving it around. Now, if you've got a big blob of silicone, what I mean by big blob like this, does nothing. Okay, we wasted all that silicone. So what we want to do is make sure we spread it all the way out. We get a good seal onto the roof. Even there. And once again, a good seal. Water comes down, runs over the top there. Just got to be a little bit careful when our silicone's though. If our roof is wet, we must dry it. So what we're going to have to do is get 2 dry rags. Okay, so we come over this way again. But this is our little wet section over here. So, we've got a bit of rain coming now. Here it comes. There's a bit of rain, roof's wet. Get your first dry rag. Wipe as much as you can off. What we're also doing is cleaning the roof down as much as we can. So there's a little bit of mould on that roof. We get the other dry rag. Dry as much as we can all the way around the screw there. Get silicone again. Pop it around the top there. And a great seal. Simply enough, that's the way you got to do it. Now, if we try to just put the silicone over the water, it's a barrier between the two. It doesn't work. Then some people will get this. It's called storm seal or wet seal. Everyone thinks it's going to work in water. It doesn't work that flash. Okay. If our roof's a little bit dirty or a bit mouldy, it won't stick to it at all. But once again, it's in some of the kits. That's fine to try. This one's a really, really sticky silicone. You get it somewhere, you'll get it all over the tools, drills, and guess what? The worst part, you get it on the harness, and you're in big trouble. Okay, some simple ones. Once we've done that, we're going to run down around our whirlybird again, have a quick look, see if we've got any leaking spots again, tidy them up, and then see if we fix the leak by going inside the house again. Alright guys, so what we're going to look at now, a different type of leak. So we talked about the whirlybird and that one there. This one here, you've got the ridges of the roof, so up here, you've got the pan of the roof sheet here, that's where all the water runs down. So the water will be running down here, and it's quite a large hole here, around about 6mm diameter sort of hole there. So what we're going to have to do is we've got to try to stop the water running down there, going into it, and the water come across the top of whatever we're going to put in there. got to be really careful what we use because some things will work, some things won't. So we stick something on there, it doesn't work, we get down off our ladder, put our system away, it doesn't work, all the water runs straight through and we're coming back to do it again. So we've got to make sure that little tiny repair gets done properly. So first thing we can see on our roof, it's mould. So it's black mould there. It's a little bit damp at this stage. Nothing will stick to that. So we have to remove that mould there. If we had Metho or something like that, that's okay, but we can generally just use our water. So what we do is we get a wet rag. It's going to take a little bit of work to do this one. So what we're going to do is get our rag, and we're going to keep wiping it. Moving it around, wiping it. We want to get as clean as we possibly can with this rag first. And a good square over here because we're going to use some different materials to seal it up. So once we've done that one there, get our dry rag again. And we want to make sure it's as dry as possible. Now if it's raining, we're going to have a little bit of trouble there, but we can still use this one here, which is basically a 2-type pack material that we can use. It's called flash tack, but we'll get that one there. So now that I've dried out that, really good if you've got some paper hand towel. Paper hand towel is probably the best thing at the end. Very absorbent, okay? That'll suck any extra moisture up, rubbing it nice and hard as possible. And now we can see our little hole in there, or it's quite a big hole, what we need to seal up, okay? Now we need to make sure that when we seal it up, we can use 2 things. We have got extra things in our little kits. We've got the cloth tape or gaffer tape. It's not going to do much for us at all in this situation, so no point in bringing that one out. We did well with the Whirlybird, that was fine. What we're going to use here, we've got the flash tack. So you can see the flash tack comes in a roll like that. Okay, so roll, sometimes they're bigger, smaller rolls, bigger, whatever it is. Quite expensive to use, okay, so if we waste it, so for instance, we wouldn't want to do this. Do that one, and 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 waste the whole roll on the Whirlybird when we could fix it with the way we did before, by just putting something else a lot easier to use. That way we got more of that to use for other jobs. This is ideal for this job here, or we could use silicone. What I've done is I screwed a screw into the tip of our silicone gun. The idea of that is if I don't use that for a while now, it's not actually going to get air in there and make the silicone go off, because air is what makes that silicone go reasonably hard, but still flexible. So what we're going to do is undo the screw out of there, as you can see. Okay, keep the screw for next time when you want to put it back in again. Same thing as we did before with this one, we can actually get our silicone and squeeze it right in. Okay, so I'm going to make sure we get a good run there. Once again, we're going to take our gloves off, and we would push it down as much as we can to create a surface there. Probably not the best of surfaces, because as the water's coming down, eventually that could actually work its way under. As you can see, this roof sheet, it's painted. So the silicone's only going to stick on as well as the paint sticking onto the metal. So yeah, once again, it's okay, but probably not the ideal way of doing it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rub that away. Also, for safety wise, when you do have a hole in the roof like that, just be careful that whatever it is hasn't created little sharp edges here. So when you're rubbing the silicone on with your finger, you cut your finger, because then you're going to get silicone stuck in there as well. So if there's a little sharp edge, you're going to get your hammer and tap the sharp edge down. That way you've got a nice smooth surface to work for. Now, let's look at our flash tape. So our flash tack comes in that roll, like I said. What also happens with the flash tack, you can see here, silver on one side. The silver is the side that goes up, of course. What's that going to do is reflect the UV, so it doesn't break it down. On the other side, we have a protective tape there. Once you do take that off, be careful you don't get it sticky everywhere. But at the moment, not too bad. Now this stuff here is not very sticky when it's cold. The more it warms up, the better it sticks. So what we're going to do is we go down to here, put it onto our roof, okay, and then we're going to start working it. Now, if I just stick that like that, walk away, come straight off. Okay. What we need to do with our flash tack, and I can see here, this is the roof that's been done before. You would not be able to get that off. Okay, it's stuck down so hard. So what they do is put it in here like that, put it on, work it. Now what you want to be doing is warming it up. Okay, so I'm rubbing it, and you might spend a good 5 or so minutes on here, rubbing and rubbing and rubbing. Okay, we can do it with our gloves on. I find it's good with the fingers because you're using that heat to warm it up. Okay, so once we've done that, we can leave that. The longer it stays there, the better it sticks. So when the sun comes back out, the heat hits it. What it does to this, it actually makes that surface there. Now I call it a tar surface. It's not really tar. it's just a sticky base. Once it gets hot, it gets more and more sticky all the time. So as we keep working it, now we're in an air-conditioned building, so it's a little bit harder. We've even got it where we use a little heat torch just to go at the top of it to heat the roof up a little bit, if need be, but you won't want to have one of those. So the more I work it, the better it gets. Okay, working our way through. What happens now is our main point is here, so we want to make sure we work the top as much as possible. Our water comes down, hits that, runs over the top and keeps going. The good part about this, that would probably last 10 years. The reflective there, as I said, is UV reflection, protects our membrane underneath, which stops the water coming into our hole. Now you might ask why I didn't do it on the hole, because I had silicone all over there, and I don't think this material here will stick on our silicone base. Okay, but we'll try it anyway, so we'll run it like that. Okay, now you notice I went over the overs here. That way we're not going to get water coming in here and going that way. The only place water can run is there. So make sure you cover over the over lips, and you can even take it over a little bit further and go down in there and there. Alrighty, so what we're going to look at is our battery drills that we have in some of our kits. We can look at this as a Makita brand, so the Makita is actually a branding. We have different ones. You've got DeWalt, Milwaukee, you've got all the different types of Hitachi, whatever it is. So what you've got to really do is just in your groups is have a look at your drills. If they're different to this one, just have a quick look and look at the functions on. But we'll just show you the functions of the two different types here. This one's in one box, so when you buy it, you basically have a Makita drill. Okay, so this is a drill, I suppose. It's got a chuck on it, got a couple other features on it, and this one's just your impact driver. Okay, much smaller, much lighter, but they both come in the same kit. When we talk about a drill, it's traditionally as a drill. You can see this one here, 18-volt battery. Now with the batteries, there's a little right there, so it's a little like a click-in locking system. You pull it down, click it back in. Okay, that's how they lock in. If you want to take it out, you must pull that down. So you see the red there, so you see that little red, and we pull it back out again. Okay. Now that's our batteries. They're interchangeable, and they're an 18-volt battery. So that goes into that one there, clicks in. Now, the other thing with our batteries, we've got our charger over there. You don't leave them in the drills, okay? You take the batteries out when you finish them, plug them into the charger, have your charger plugged into the power, and leave it on there all the time. The battery chargers are conditioning battery chargers, so they condition the batteries all the time and make sure they're at optimum. With some of your batteries also, you can see on the back of this battery here, okay, it's got a little white button there, you push it. So we push the little white button, you'll see three red lights come up there. That means it's used as 1 bar of its lights, so you've got 4 all up. When we push it again, 3 there, still got 3 that are full. If it's completely full, there's 4. It comes down to 1, the 1 flashes, that means that you're starting to run out of power. So you don't want to get up onto the roof with 1 flashing, because that means you're going to get up there and it's just going to stop immediately. So just going back to our drill again, so this is our drill, it's much heavier, so it's much heavier to use, it's a lot more awkward, but in saying that, it does different features. So this one here, you have 2 speeds, you have slow speed, and you have a fast speed. So you might want to do something where you're going to go nice and slow, so you're drilling a hole or something like that, you don't want it to overheat, you need to go onto the 1. The other feature on the front, it's got a picture of a screw, it's got then a picture of a drill bit, so we can push this little lever across, okay, to the drill, so that's when we're going to drill a hole, and then it goes over to what looks like a hammer. Now the hammers, if we're going to drill holes into concrete and things like that, but we've got to be careful we don't use a steel drill bit on hammer into metal, because it's going to make a really bad sound, which I can't do here because it would be quite loud. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to drill a hole, we're going to put it onto the drill motion. You also have a clutch in this one, so you can see it starts off at a 16, 14, goes all the way down, okay, to there. So what happens to that is, as we're drilling our hole now, before we do, you can see if I do this, you can start to see this little chuck coming in and out. So that's coming out and opening up there. So what we want to do, if we're going to use a drill bit, make it a little bit bigger, reverse, we put our drill bit into there, we put it forward. Now what I mean by forward, on the side here of the drill, you can see a little button. This little button goes that way or goes that way. Now at the moment, if I go that way, it's going forward. What I mean by forward, our drill bit goes around that way and we'll drill a hole the right way around. If I want it reverse, I push the little button there, so you can see that little button I've got on the side, push it the other way. Now my drill bit's going the opposite way. It won't drill, but if I was doing a screw, it would actually undo the screw and take it back out again. So you can see now I've got the drill bit into there. You see how fast I can drill, how slow it can drill, and that would be into our drill there. Now also I've got that down to the 1, That means it's nice and tight. Okay, I can't stop that from turning by holding the chuck. If I go this way with our little clutch function, up to 16, so it's even tighter. I can hardly hold that at all. So it's going to spin right around in my hand. So the clutch function just stops it from spinning and make it nice and loose at any phase. Okay, but generally that's just going to be our drill, pretty much as a drill. Now we can use that up on the roof to take screws out, but this one's going to be a little bit better for us. Simply this one here, same thing again, battery if I want to take it out, clicks in and out, back into there like that. Now this one doesn't have as many functions. So really the functions are forward, which is that way, push that across, here's my reverse, and that's the only function it has that I can change. So what we can only put in here, we can't put a drill bit into here because it doesn't have a chuck that screws up on it. We can only use what we call the tips that go into these. So in our kits, we will have 3 different types, okay, or 3 different things. So that one's a Phillips, okay, or your Star. Okay, it's called a P2 if you want to know that one. If you ever want to get a replacement, it's called a P2. So that's really, really important. That P2 one does our normal Star screws, as you can see here, the little Star screws. So that sits into our Star nicely, okay, and we can screw in like that. All right? That's why we call it a P2, it fits those ones there. Now in your kits also, you're going to have the hex bits, okay, so usually should be 2 different sizes. Okay, this one here is a 5/16. All right, so you can look onto here. So we look up close, there's 5/16. 5/16 is the head size of the screw. You can see the 2 screws I got here, the head size. So that's your 5/16, that's your 3/8. The 3/8 is the bigger one. Where do you see the 5/16 most of the time? It's with our whirlybirds and things like that, or other people have, they're a smaller screw generally, and they're used for screwing things on like whirlybirds, skylights, air conditioners and things like that. Okay, so what I mean by that size is there's the hex there. They've also got a magnet in there that actually holds the screw in place, so when you put it like that, it doesn't fall out. The most common is going to be our 3/8. So you can see on the shaft there, it says 3/8. That's our 3/8 screw. That's most of our roofing screws. Nearly all our roofing screws that we have where we screw our roof off down our roof line like this here are going to be that 3/8 size. Bearing that in mind, if you go down south, so you went into Brisbane or Sydney, a lot of them will be smaller because they don't have the cyclone rating that we have up here and need the bigger head on the screws. So what we're going to do is look at our screw gun, or where we're going to put it into our battery drill. You can see the shaft coming down here where we read that 3/8, and then there's actually a little scalloped out section. The idea of that is, you can see this here, we have to pull that out. So that actually locks our screw tip in place. So if we try to push that in now, okay, it'll lock in there and we can't get it back out again. So what that does is a couple of ball bearings in there, around there. So what that's done is those ball bearings have sat around that little section there, the scallop section. So we put it in and it won't come back out. So as we're working away, this won't fall, because imagine if that fell out, it would roll down the roof and we'd be chasing it all the time. So to get it out, you pull that little cowl or the little cup forward and you can pop it back out again to change over. Remember, if you do pull it out, make sure you don't put it out on the roof or somewhere you're going to lose it. Very easy to lose on the roof, quite simply. So we put it back into there, ready to go. Now the good function of these, they've got a little light on them as well. That light's really, really handy. So as you're pushing down, you can see where the screw is going to end up. So what we do, we can put our screw into our socket there, so on our hex drive, we can bring it up to here. Now remember I said we had a forward function, so what I mean by forward, our screw has got a spiral going down all the way down. Once we start, we want to go forward, so we would go like that. Okay, push our screw in, and it'll go all the way down. So we got it in the wrong place, or we want to do something different. As you can see, that function there that I said forward and reverse. So they put it beautifully near the trigger here, so at the moment I'm going forward. Now if I want to reverse it, push it that way, right through, and push it back out again. Want to go forward again, back out. So that's that one there, forward and reverse. So that's the only 2 functions this one's have on it. There's also a clutch in this one, so if we go too far, it won't keep screwing the screw down, it'll start bouncing around. That's why they call impact. So it actually uses like a vibration or a little hammer to actually help us get screws in and out. Simple enough, our impact right there, and our normal battery drill we normally see on any other particular drill.